What's up, guys? How's everyone doing tonight? Today, 5:30. All our European members. Open YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, swing it. What's going on, Miles? What's happening? Jan B. Hey, folks. You made it, Jan. Very nice.
Don't have to watch a replay. All right. Okay, cool. So we've got a few people in, waiting for a few people. We can just start though. JNV, how's it going, man? Miles, Manter, and Swing It. All right, so let's start out with Bitcoin. So we had this nice semi-double bottom, more of a triple bottom, depending on what time frame you're looking at. That a lot of people were calling a descending triangle / bear flag, which was valid. The thing that was concerning me about shorting this region was mostly the funding, as far as BIMX funding, which I'll bring that up right now. If you don't know how to find funding on TradingView, go to funding and then use this neobutane 1842. You have to type in funding. You can't type in BitBox funding. For some reason, it doesn't find it like that.
Can you pump yourself up a little?
Oh, yeah. Pump up those numbers, right?
Don't worry, Jan. He's gonna crank it up. 1 second. Eric, how are you?
So weird how this shit. It is, man. Okay, so it must be going through a different microphone. Hold on. Let's take that.
Oh, ETH USD. What's poppin', SP family? Excellent. Good to see you.
What's poppin', Kevin? Eric, how's it going, man? Okay, so let's see what the heck I'm. Oh, here we go.
Mic check. I don't wanna be too loud.
Holy cow. Take it easy. My eardrums. JC is just trying to kill us all. Don't worry, everybody. It's fine.
Did you change the levels? Is that okay?
No, it's terrible. It just sounds, it's beyond hot. It's broken. See, you start talking crazy and everybody shows up.
Hello? Hello?
It's better. It's still hot, but it's better.
Hello?
That's good. What do you think, guys? You guys good with that? Jan?
Hello?
Eric?
Mic check. I'm trying to be quiet so I don't, people's ears don't bleed.
Demka says, another live stream, another terrible sounding Jacob. Aw.
That was much better. Okay, cool. Man, I don't know what is up with my sound on your stuff.
I don't
Okay,
know.
cool. Okay, so what the heck? That one. Okay, so the funding rates are basically the ratio of open interest orders on leverage exchanges. So you have shorts versus longs. And so I like to use this funding indicator to know kind of which side is overcompensated, because the majority is usually wrong. But the thing that happens with funding is that when funding looks like this or funding looks like this, that means that, you know, from September 2nd to September 22nd, longs were paying shorts for over 20 days. So just to keep a position open, they were paying to keep that position open, and it was pretty high. I mean, it was 0.09% every 8 hours. So every 20 hours or 24 hours, you're paying 0.2% just to keep a position open. Now, what happens though is if you open a position, let's say anywhere in through here, which, you know, for the first, 7 days, a week or something like that, let's say you open along here, well, and you're on a leveraged position. Well, now you're paying funding, but if it breaks below here and it stays below there, not only are you paying to hold that position open, but now your position is underwater. And basically what that means is that you're negative. So let's say you're 10x, but so if you're on 10x, that means a 10% move. Okay, so 10% for any leveraged positions that were 10x above here. So any of these 10x positions, That means after 10%, their position is then liquidated because they're on 10%, which is like a 100% move. So if they were on 100x, 1% move, but 10x for the most part. So here at the very, very bottom, even if you had longed here on a 10% move, then you would be liquidated at this basically $9,000 break. So what that means is you can set up something known as a long squeeze. And what that means is this capitulates and sets a stop limit, cascade, where the exchange will overload, and it just basically hits all the stop losses all the way down and liquidates a lot of orders. And when the exchange overloads like that, you can't close out orders. And that's kind of like the BitMEX curse, is when you enter into a long position up here on any sort of leverage, you just get kind of liquidated very, very quickly if you're trading on anything over 10x. On 5x, this would need to move much, much further, but on 10x, it's just 10%. Okay, so on down here, the funding completely flipped, as you can see. And down here, shorts were paying longs. So it paid to have a long position open. And so from here, we've had bad funding for short positions the entire time it's been broken underneath 8,800. So this was not really too much of a short zone for me, just because the funding was so bad that if you were holding a $1 million position for any length of time, you're paying some pretty significant interest on that position just to hold it open. So when we break up here, because now any position, literally any position that was opened after we broke this 8,500 level is now underwater. But now we risk a short squeeze. And if you read my live market updates, this is what I was kind of referring to. Now we risk a short squeeze in that if we can, let's just use this middle example. So basically like middle of the road, if we can push up 10% here, then what you'll see is another cascade of short squeeze orders, maybe back up, to form that beautiful BART pattern that we've come to know and love for Bitcoin, which would be around 9,800. Now there's a lot of resistance in between here. There's a lot of other things, but that's the main reason why I wasn't too interested in taking any short positions in through here. I mean, you could have maybe played this range kind of in and out, in and out, in and out, but I just wasn't too interested in taking like a really big long or really big heavy short position here. And it was more interesting to play altcoins, mostly because Bitcoin dominance was falling pretty heavily since basically the start of September. That's where we really started to trade a lot of altcoins from September on. Now we did get a little bit of a bounce in dominance, and it's very important to know that dominance going up doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin price goes up, because dominance has been basically going up, and this was part of my TradingView post today. Dominance has basically been going up since January 1st, 2018. Okay, so we had our alt season, and dominance has been going up. But as you know, we had our 3,200 capitulation breakdown, big break, basically. Where was that at? Like November of 2000. Yeah, so like right here. So this was the 3,200 break where we actually capitulated, but you could see dominance kept going up and up and up and up. So just because you have dominance going up doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin goes up. Now, what dominance is really good for is to know and to speculate on whether or not it's good to be in altcoin positions or not. And back here, we saw that it was a very good time to speculate mostly on altcoin positions. In through here, we traded some alts, but not a ton of alts as dominance traded up. And we mostly trade a lot of Bitcoin positions in through here. So on Bitcoin, we'll take a look at high time frame and low time frame. So a high time frame, we've got this nice little dead cat bounce, okay? And we are not at the point where we're going to get that short squeeze liquidation yet. But I'm still not super comfortable taking any like heavy short positions quite yet, even though we are at resistance. And you could take out like a 1x position. So we bounced off the 100 weekly MA. And daily, we came right up to the 200 EMA and 200 MA, and that's usually a good position to take out maybe a 1x hedge. But that being said, I'm mostly playing altcoins because it's like shorting Bitcoin. It's like a speculative it's like a speculative short. It's like a synthetic short rather than actually taking out shorts against Bitcoin. But that's mostly because that's where most of my money's at right now, is on Binance, trading altcoins. Okay, so we had this potential descending triangle. We had a little bit of a bear flag slash descending broad wedge, which I mentioned in the live market updates. We broke above the 50 MA on the 4 hour. We broke up here. We have not tested the 200 MA on the 4 hour. We're getting a little bit of sell off now after a triple rejection here. So now the question is will we get some support either horizontal or diagonal? So we've got some support at 8250, and then we've got some support at 8200. In my opinion, it would probably be better to look for long positions rather than short positions. We are still under the 200 MA, but I just like the way that this looks, and all of these shorts right here are all of these shorts right here are underwater that they were opened in the last 2 weeks. So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, but there are still some really good altcoin trades that we'll take a look at right now. So Ren was a trade that I had mentioned last night, and it's up currently. Okay, so Ren's up about 15%. I'm still holding that position, considering taking profit a little bit earlier. But basically, this was what I was looking at. We were coming up to this high time frame resistance. We were riding this 20 MA, looked really, really strong. And Ren is a coin that's similar to Link in that once it breaks up, it usually likes to move into a parabolic move. And so I thought once we broke this high time frame resistance and we were above the 200 MA, 200 EMA, that once we got above here, that we would kind of have a really nice solid setup back up to high time frame resistance on the daily chart, which was basically like around the 100 MA in this previous resistance right here. So 800, which was basically a solid 38% trade. So Ren, I still really like. It's above a lot of key moving averages. We might get a little bit of a pullback back to the 200 MA, 200 EMA, but Ren usually likes to trail Link, and then it likes to move there. Matic was consolidating really tight. We talked about Matic a few times. This was not an official trade. We were in a lot of altcoin trades, and I wanted to kind of keep our exposure more limited. But Matic was consolidating. We finally broke up. And this is a newer chart, so we don't even have a 200 MA, but we're basically getting some vortexing on all of our moving averages as it broke up. So this is a good trade in that we can look for any sign of a pullback, because when Matic runs, it really likes to run pretty hard. As you can see back here, Matic was like one of the top gainers back in early 2019. It did over 1,000%. I expect Matic to do a pretty big move off of that consolidation breakup. If we did KYC for our old Binance, would we need to make a new Binance with VPN and not KYC? I would, Kevin. And it seems like as soon as they kicked off Americans, they turned on their market making bots to start an alt season.
Shocker.
Damn CZ. Okay, so BNB came basically like a hair off of our first target. It did get rejected by the 50 MA on the daily chart. We've got this solid falling wedge that it has broken up and out of. So I still like BNB for a long-term trade. We might get a little bit of a pullback, maybe close to entry. Oh, we actually got the bounce though that I was looking for. Okay, cool. So we broke up, tagged the 200 MA on the pullback. So this thing looks pretty good for a continued upside momentum. So I like holding BNB here. I have a pretty decent size in BNB. BNB USD is coming up on the 200 EMA in about 3%. That would be a key level to break because it was previous resistance once, twice, 3 times. And so this is the point where we may see a kind of a bullish move up and then a little bit of a retrace before maybe down to like a trend line down here before a continuation to the upside. But the BTC pair looks pretty good overall for continued trade. And then, yeah, it's actually breaking up right now. Let's take a look at some of our other trades. Nano was looking pretty good. It was holding above entry, so I didn't want to close that too early. Raven had a really nice impulse on volume. Poly was holding our first target, and XRP is still sitting around target one, around 12%. And XRP is an interesting chart. Whoops. They did announce some news with a bank partnership today, but it didn't really have much of a reaction just because of the market making. Okay, so what we're looking for on XRP, I actually was considering closing this trade this morning, or even recommending a short. I guess that was the right move. But so right now we hit a little bit of a double top, and let me see. I was hoping for a flip. If you saw my chart this morning, I was hoping for a flip here, which we got, and it pushed up, but basically we hit a double top where we get this little bit of a lower high. So now what we're looking for is the 50 MA on the 4 hour, as well as this leading diagonal trend, to see if we can hold up. So we might drop down here, consolidate a little bit, where we see some shorts enter, and then hopefully we can push up and continue to move to the top side. So 1, 2, wave 3. This would be a little bit of a wave 4. So I'm looking for one more push up, just because we are in a bullish control zone for XRP, and we're above most key moving averages on the 4 hour. The daily, we still have our 200 MA all the way up around 4,000, which this to me looks like a better place to short high time frame. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as the 200 MA at the same exact level around 41.53. So that's something, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for XRP, maybe a little bit of a breakdown and then a push up. If we do lose this trend, then I will definitely recommend taking out some shorts for lower levels, probably a 618 or a 786 pullback. But for now, it's looking pretty decent. Hold on, let me get this black. Okay, so let me get this black. Okay, so if we do lose this trend line, then I'd be looking more probably around this red line right here, where it was previous resistance, previous support, come back down, maybe test this 70.6 level, kind of golden retracement zone, maybe 50 MA, and then we push back up. But this does look like a little bit of an accumulation process and a bounce up. We hit this previous low over here, which lines up with a lot of other resistance levels back from 2016, 2017. Okay, what else we want to cover? FTM. This was a trade that I had recommended in the live market updates, and it's worked out quite nicely. It's up currently up around 6%. But we had this breakout. We've got a 7 EMA crossing the 20, current resistance around the 50 MA on the daily. We didn't hold the 200 MA. If we can't get above here, this would be a good place to cut the trade and just kind of reevaluate, especially when Bitcoin breaks out. Small caps and mid caps tend to take a little bit more abuse and punishment. That's why I closed most of the small caps. Most of them were in profit already, so I didn't mind closing them. But the fact that we can't hold this 200 MA, 200 EMA on the 4 hour, I would actually probably go ahead and just cut this trade and then just reevaluate after. We did get the nice impulse, and let's see what the pullback looks like. Yeah, we hit the 50, which is typically bullish. Give it a little bit of time. If you're not going to cut the trade, at least see if you can get back above the 200 MA, 200 EMA. And if you can, then I think this has got more potential continued upside. This is literally the best time for the live stream. Okay, cool. But if you can't get above that 200 MA, 200 EMA, then I would probably just cut the trade. I mean, even if it starts to fall back, I would probably just cut the trade myself. I have a small position open, so I'll probably just close it in 3 commas. There's a lot of other setups going on. So I would not, for me, I'm in this sort of a market, I would be impatient with my trades. Meaning if they don't move or if they don't do what you want them to do, like I would have loved to see this kind of push up harder and then use this as support, especially because it was resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. So that's just kind of my thinking. We do have a little bit of a history of it breaking down and then touching back up, but back here it used the 100 MA as support, and it hasn't really tested that 100 MA. So this is actually probably a really good place to add on is that 100 MA. So it most likely will probably come up, push up, and then test this 100 MA and then bounce from there. So 136 as opposed to where we are right now, 145. So you may be able to add on a little bit more to your position if you're looking at trading FTM. Is DRX. Okay, so we talked about this one yesterday. High time frame resistance was right back here, 3,500. It looks like that level got front ran a little bit. And we had this ascending trial break up, ascending triangle break up. Currently testing the 20 MA on the 4 hour. I would not be surprised. How fast do you move stops up with these alt rallies with Bitcoin uncertainty? It depends on the move of the alt. If it breaks into a parabolic move, like FET did, I'll just put on a 2% trailing stop and just be okay with getting out of the trade, just because of the way that the market moves. If you like the profit, and I always recommend you don't have to take profit like right away. Like let's say with this trade, let's say you bought within this triangle, anywhere within this triangle. As it moves up, you can scale out 25%, 25%. Okay, so now you've only got 50% of your trade left. So then you can set a trailing stop loss and then lock in profit and then let it continue to the upside. That's kind of like, one of the recommendations on scaling out. And that way you're not trying to close out your entire position that you bought down here. Even down here, let's say you take a speculative long, we got here, and then we hit maybe like this support line. You could enter 25% in here, okay? And then it pulls back. You could enter another 25%. You could enter another, 50% as it gets close to the apex of breaking out. And that way you've got a cost average of around 2450 rather than a cost average of 2100 or 2700. Take a look at TRX BTC. Looks good for continuation after broke 190 sat level. And same thing with XBT. So, or Bitcoin in general. So let's say you're margin trading Bitcoin here. Let's say you enter a 3x lev trade, right? So maybe you're not so sure about this 7,800, 7,900 level, but we've got a little support. We've supported it 3 times. Well, if you plan on entering, like, let's say with a 1% risk trade, well, you can enter 25%. So you're really only risking 0.25% of your total portfolio. Let's say you buy here, okay, and then it breaks out. Well, now you're already in profit, and it pulls back, and you're like, okay, well, this looks pretty good. It's got a bull flag appearance. It's above most key moving averages. It broke out from the downtrend. It's holding our 20 MA on the 4 hour. Okay, let's enter 25% more of our position here. So now it broke up, but your cost average is around $8,000. You entered here on the support. You entered here right at resistance, but in a bull flag formation because the pattern looked good. So you've got 50% of your total position, so 0.5% risk. But now you're breaking up. So now you're in profit. So now you can trail your stop up to a profitable level, or maybe you want to take out 50% once you tag that 200 MA here. So now you have 0.25% of the total 1% trade that you were thinking about risking. So there's lots and lots of different ways you can ladder in, or even still, if you think this is going to break up harder, maybe you take some profit here and then you add back in. So your risk is still 0.25%. Your total cost is around 8,000, but now you're adding back in here. So there's lots of different things you can do. You don't have to go all in, all out. That's actually the hardest way to trade, just because you're trying to time tops and bottoms. Whereas scaling in is a little bit easier. So hopefully you guys found that a little helpful. How much of a trailing stop do you usually use for higher targets? So I found that trailing stops actually ruin my portfolio performance. So I don't typically use trailing stops unless I'm on like leverage and I'm going to sleep and I'm expecting like a parabolic breakout. But even here, if you had set like a 2% trailing stop, you'd probably be, I'm not sure what we've dropped so far, but 1.77%. So you get wicked out and then it could continue higher. So I typically don't set trailing stops unless we move into, like, let's say like a link type movement or like a FET pump and dump type movement. Those are the main times I use trailing stops. TRX BTC. Okay, so we lost the 20 MA on the 4 hour, but it does look like it's got a little support. It looks like it's trying to find support on the 100 MA. Let's see if the 100 MA has 100 MA, not super important. Let's take a look at the 12-hour chart. Okay, so this looks like a little bit, you can see the 12-hour chart is actually super helpful. Resistance. I'm looking at this orange 200 EMA resistance. and we just came up against the same exact 200 EMA. So I would probably wait to see if that 200 EMA gets broken. We are holding the 200 MA right now, but to me, a better place to add on would be probably like right around here. So I mean, we got a little bit of a pullback here, but probably 185. That looks like a little bit of a topping candle. We got a nice bearish rejection around the 200 EMA on the 12-hour. So I would see if this candle breaks down at all. We might see a little bit of pullback and then a push down. But this looks like a nice breakout, and I would look for more of a retest rather than trying to buy into kind of like the middle of this range right here. Do you want to post your chart, Jan, and I can bring it up? If you guys have any charts that you want me to look at, feel free to post them in the comments, and I can always bring them up and kind of do an analysis of them. ZRX and Link. Okay, so Link, where's my on-demand? What the heck is this? Okay, so Link is in a parabolic structure market, so you really want to use log to take a look at this, especially on high time frames. But okay, so we use the curve tool. So here's, am I connected still?
You should be, yeah. I got you.
Chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to
yeah, I got the same warning, but look good. OBS is good. You're live on YouTube is good. Feed is good. Maybe just chat. Hello.
Okay, vet USD, thanks. Okay, how much of a trend? Okay, so Link is in a parabolic trend, so you want to use these kind of you want to use the curve tool to see where supports might be. And usually in parabolic trends, what you'll actually see is you'll see on the daily chart, the support actually comes with a 7 EMA. You can see when we broke it here, the 7 EMA then acts as support. Almost every parabolic trend, that 7 EMA is the go-to support. So we are definitely moving into this parabolic move. So let's take a look and see if there's any indication of slowing down. Okay, so daily, there's no div yet on daily, but I was showing this chart. Where am I at? Was I looking at the 3-day? Okay, so the 3-day chart gives us a really good idea of when to kind of scale out of Link. So 82, 83 is usually the high time frame topping point for a lot of these parabolic moves on Link. So here you can see we got around 79, 80. So it looks like we've got a little bit more to go before we reach kind of an apex. Back here, we also reached around 80. So 80 on the 3-day is a pretty good spot to scale out. We did hit that kind of all-time high resistance here, but I don't typically tend to sell unless I see weakness, and right now there's not a lot of weakness. RSI is not a div yet, so when you see a div, you'll see something like this, where RSI goes down, and then it comes up and does that. Whereas price will come up, come down, and then push up one more time, and then come down. So that's where you'll see basically like a bearish div, where this will continue higher and this will start shifting to the lower side. And RSI is a momentum indicator, so that's what I typically want to see, especially when this looks like a potential. Let's zoom out a little bit. Wave 1, maybe a sideways wave 2. This could be a wave 3. Wave 4 is a little bit of a deeper retrace than if wave 2 is shallow and flat, then wave 4 is a little bit deeper. And I'm not like a huge on Elliott waves, but the 2-4 wave rule has always been helpful for me. And it even looks like we got our pullback to the 70.6 and it's pushing up now. So again, what you can do is, if you watch my guide on stop losses, we're in a parabolic trend. So as we break out, and we break out from here, just set it below the last swing low. As we break out, just set it below the last swing low. As we break out, just set it below the last swing low. As we break out, set it below the last swing low. as we break out, if this pushes up, then you can just set it below the last swing low. And that way you're at least locking in profits along the way. And the other thing is, again, we break out, we hit the 61.8, you can take out 25% of your profits. Okay, we didn't have much of a pullback and we broke up. Well, you know, we hit the 78.6, got a little resistance, you can take out 25% of your profits and then just let the rest ride. Okay, unless there's a long-term investment, in which case you want to zoom out on a little bit of a higher time frame. Okay, VET USD. If you guys have any specific questions or charts you want me to look at, make sure you drop them in the chat. We've got 35 people on, so whatever you guys want to see, just let us know. Okay, so VET USD is interesting. We actually got a little bit of a double bottoming action. RSI never broke below 30 on the weekly. You can see that was a very, very key level back here. Currently hitting the 50 MA. And the first test of the 50 MA kind of got front ran a little bit, but we had a nice little pullback. So I would look for maybe a pullback entry. We're still above the 20 MA on the 4-hour, which was, you know, pretty key resistance. But as far as like a long-term hold, I'd probably wait till this 50 MA breaks, just because, you know, it's been resistance 3-4 times. And we're not quite out of bearish control zone. We're still, you know, around 50. So chat doesn't allow URLs to be posted. Not that I have.
Just use the Discord then.
Okay, yeah, you can just post it in VIP chat and Discord. That works as well. And then what's the other trade we had going on? XRP, Poly, Raven, Nano, BNB. Have you guys been making money though? I hope you guys have been making money. Been killing it lately. How much of a trailing stop? Always bullish. Take a look at TRX BTC. Looks for situation after broken down 10 cents. BNB comes back very strong. ZRX Link. Cool. Any other charts you guys want me to look at? Ching ching.
What?
He said ching ching. I think he meant like he was making money.
Nice.
Beam. Oh yeah, Beam. Beam's been off my radar. Beam and Dusk. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're really, I mean, what I don't want to see, especially if I'm trying to like time a short, I don't want to see like immediate strength or like a consolidation like that. That's usually not like here. Where was it? Took a short on, where was that at? Less margin trader. Yeah, so okay, so I took a short like basically like right around here, the first test on this 200 EMA on the hourly. I took a short right around here. I opened a little bit more at like 82.20. So once we broke up and then we held and we consolidated, that's where I was just like, all right, let's just close this short out, just because it was showing consolidation strength. I was looking for a swift and quick rejection. But when it, you know, first off, it broke my trading thesis, which was the 200 EMA rejection short. Once it broke up and then it flipped it as support, that's when I was like, okay, I'm just going to cut this trade. And I think I cut it maybe for like I was only on 5x leverage, so it was maybe less than like 3% loss. But that's just because it was consolidating and it looked like it had strength. And also we saw a lot of buy support when we came down and tested these lower levels on the flip here. So that's what I was looking at. Last 2 days, 8% total Binance portfolio. Hell yeah, DK. That's awesome, man. Anytime you can increase your portfolio in 2 days by 8% is a massive win, especially if your portfolio is in Bitcoin, because now you get the USD value in Bitcoin of 11%. So any trades you've made in BTC, if your BTC value is going up, well, your USD value is also going up as well. So that's good. Okay, so let's take a look at Beam. And then I'm going to jump off and I'm going to let Mr. Chinggis take over and go over his analysis and you know what. So you guys get to learn from him for those that don't get to see the late night live streams. Okay, so Beam is looking interesting. We have a little bit of a descending triangle formation on the hourly. I think there's a little bit of a better chart that has much more data. Do you know what that site's called? I always forget it. Coin Signals?
Yeah, Coin Signal Pro. Yeah, just type Coin Signals, it'll show up.
Oh, here it is. No,
Oh
see,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
not-
yeah. Trade. Coin signals trade. That's it.
No, that's not it either.
Yeah, that'll be. Let's see.
No, they changed it because the guy that was running it was a scam artist or something like that. It got bought out.
Let's see.
Okay, so let's take a look at the log. Okay, so here's another like really helpful tip. Janby says, when leverage bot, sir? LOL. Seriously though, any progress on margin stuff? So the leverage bot has been doing well. The problem is it's not for beginners, and it gets really tricky during rangy bound markets. So I didn't really want to release it just because it does really well, but it doesn't do well during range bound markets. What I am going to do though is probably introduce a different, I guess, trading service specifically for leverage trading. That is completely separate from altcoin trading, because what I found is that that's what's confusing people the most. Is people are coming in looking for one thing, but then they're getting another thing. So, and if I do that, then most likely, if you have like one membership or whatever you want, then you can kind of filter yourself into whichever group you want to be in that makes the most sense for you. But right now, I'm testing out 3 really highly skilled leverage traders to see if any of them would be good for signal profits is on the margin side. I like my specialty is mostly Bitcoin, so I don't usually trade a lot of alt positions on margin, just because I'm on Bybit and I was on BitMEX, but it seems like a lot of people are looking for more margin trades on BitMEX. So I've been testing out a couple of margin traders, and one of them is an absolute killer. So very excited about that, but that's in the works, and it'll be coming. But the bots have been kind of hit or miss as far as how easy it is to use for a beginner, because you need to understand a lot of technical analysis and other things to make it like really, really intuitive. Okay, so Beam, we are consolidating. We had a massive run up and then a massive sell off, and this is like basically because of the liquidity that this was traded on. This was mostly traded on KuCoin, but also because of the price dynamics of Beam. It's an inflationary cryptocurrency, meaning the supply gets more and more and more over time. So it makes sense that this kind of sells off. So for me, the fundamentals of Beam don't make it like a great investment until 6 months to a year, just because the supply curve and the way that it works with mining difficulties just means that more and more supply gets released over time until it eventually tapers off. And so that creates a lot of downward sell pressure, which makes it hard for the price to kind of come up easily. So that's my 2 thoughts on Beam as a long-term privacy hold. And the same thing with Zcash. We saw basically a similar thing with Zcash in the miner's reward. But from a technical perspective, take a look at the technicals. Okay, we're on the daily chart, and this is a very choppy chart, but we did have a little bit of a falling wedge here. It broke up, lost support, looks like a little bit of a bear trap, came up, and now it looks like we're back to a kind of an odd support level. And this is most likely just Binance listing price market maker support. Let me look at Beam. Yeah, so basically the market maker, I mean, we came down, we tested this level. Now we've got a descending triangle, and this doesn't look like super great. We're sitting on support right now. And so my guess will be that it's going to break down a little bit lower even. So Beam for me is not a trade unless we can get above and outside of this downtrend resistance. And I know it's like kind of a newer coin on Binance, but for me, this is a kind of a wait and watch trade. Especially because of the formation, lower high, lower high, lower high, strong support that's been tested a whole bunch of times. And historically, this level wasn't like super important. So it looks like we could still drop another, 10% down to this lower support level. So that's what I'd be watching for. But there's a lot of even, more liquidity even down here that we could see a push down to. Decent volume, but the volume fell off quite a bit after the Binance pump. And let's look at ETH BTC. Never had the chance to be on the live stream in the weekdays, usually only weekend as it's too late in Dubai. So today is okay. Thanks for that. Am I? Okay, I'm not on. Okay, so ETH BTC, we've got a little bit of a swing fail pivot where it hit this kind of high time frame resistance. We do have this. Oops. So if we close below here, that's not a great sign as far as ETH BTC, but it has been looking pretty good on all the way up into this resistance level. We really would have been better to see this close above this level. So I think the daily closing will just bring a lot more information. This is neither kind of a short nor a long yet, kind of mid-range, because we're just not. Okay, Miles Manter says I skipped over ZX. Yeah, I'll look at it in a second. This stream's for you guys, so obviously I'm gonna go through any chart you want me to look at. Okay, so high time frame resistance back here. In the real high time frame key resistance, I've mentioned this a few times, but it's basically this 245 level. Let's go back to Poloniex, I think has the most data. So this 245 level, it was tested 1, 2, 3 times, 245, 247. And so this is really the key level that we've got to watch for. But this was not a higher high yet. Okay, so we tapped it. So now we have to see if we get rejected at all. And the 4-hour, we are above the moving averages, and we're holding this 50 MA on the 4-hour really well. So that's been like a very key support. We tapped the 200 EMA at once already, actually 1, 2, 3 times. But the most important thing is we want to see this kind of break and hold above, confirm, and then look for that long opportunity. Look at that nasty wick on Poloniex, Jesus. 20% liquidity. So seems to fail making higher high. Yeah, it hasn't made a higher high yet. This is what's known as a swing fail pivot when you're talking about price action trading. It's basically where it tries to push up for a higher high, but so something like this where it pushes up, fails to do so, and then the next candle gives you confirmation as to the direct trend. How early would you take profits on Ren if you are not letting it run? I think I already covered Ren. Okay, so how early would you take profits? We've got a little bit of a topping candle on the 4-hour, but we had one here, we had one here. So Ren gets these like kind of small, shallow pullbacks. But anytime you're happy with profit, just take profit and move it from there. One thing you can use to determine profit levels is something called the pivot point standard. So I'll show you how to set this up. The pivot point standard is really helpful, and then it shows standard deviations. So it kind of looks like this when you first open it, a little bit confusing. So what I like to do is I actually like to use Fibonacci rather than traditional. And then I don't like to show historical pivots, so I only like kind of real time. So right now, Ren is, that's the 4-hour. Ren's R2 is sitting right at basically 703. So this would be a really great place to take profit. R1 is right here. So pivot point standard gives you a really decent way to kind of like take profit levels. So R1, you can take 50%, 25%. R2, you could take another 25, 50%. And then R3 is kind of the top of the range as far as like profit levels go. And even when you're looking to add in or set a stop loss into swing positions, you can see that comes very, very close to S1. And then this middle line is our pivot. So that's just a simple tool you can use to kind of determine where to take profit levels at. ZRX BTC. Okay. So ZRX tapped our, not sure what's going on with that. Remove drawing tools. Okay, cool. So ZRX got very, very close to our 200 MA, 200 EMA, pulling back currently. So as you can see, R1 was a resistance level. That was a good place to take profit. R2, another good place to take profit. And then R3, our second. R1 is the least risk possible. Okay. So if you buy on the pivot and then you take profit at R1, that's the least risk possible because you're in the trade less time. The higher your targets, the more risk you have in a trade, which usually means you need to lower your stop loss just because you're aiming for higher target. That's what's known as swing trading. So R2 is a decent place to add into the position. What was the question again? Oh, ZRX. Okay. So ZRX analysis. So we had this ascending triangle, rode the 7 EMA. We broke out, got front ran a little bit by this 200 EMA, rejected now. So my guess is that we'll probably come back down, retest this level. And then if we hold it as support, it'll be a really good little scalp trade. We can also hold for a push up, maybe to test the 200 MA, 200 EMA. Now, if we break this level, then I would just cut the trade completely and move on. Because most likely what we'll probably do is we'll probably come back down to the pivot, consolidate, and that pivot will most likely be around like the 50/61.8. So yep, so right around that 61.8, you can see that we're right on that pivot zone. And then rec BTC REQ. So it looked like it was breaking out really nicely. It actually tapped the R3. Really great place to take profit. My guess is that it'll probably come all the way back down to test this 100 MA that was like the resistance on the daily chart. And then there it may find support, which is also lines up with this pivot line and high time frame kind of SR flip here. So REC is another one of those shit coins that, you know, likes to push up and it likes to sell off. You can see what it did here. So really, really similar. Oops, I'm going to just draw this out. So really, really similar. Breaks up, comes back down to the 786. So we got the impulse, and that level will probably line up right with, okay, 786 is a little bit lower, but, you know, right around the 61.8, 70.6. So I expect probably something similar with REQ. It is holding our, it is holding a little bit of a parabolic support, but I trust a shitcoin to hold its value about as much as, okay, so how early, okay, dusk. Chinggis is over there chomping at the bit.
What? No, everything's good. It's good. Killing it.
Dusk got absolutely decimated on that. When was that? Yeah, on that Bitcoin breakout, Dusk got absolutely decimated. Not a trade that I would look to take at all right now. We lost key moving averages, broke below on the hourly 200 MA. And this was after a massive consolidation. And this, I mean, we got a little bit of a buyback here all the way down to S1, but definitely a much more risky trade than other trades. We do have this trend line support, but it looks like we're currently getting rejected at the pivot line right now. So not a trade that I would be looking to take just because I think there's a lot better trades out there. And you can see we did hit a high time frame resistance back here, which, you know, kind of rejected it pretty bad. CHC, are you guys finding this stream helpful? You guys like this? Anything specific you want me to cover? I know we're covering mostly altcoins. Okay, and then MDA. Okay, and then I'll let Chinggis take over for MDA. So CHZ is actually looking pretty decent. It's holding the 50 MA on the 4-hour. This was previous high time frame resistance or high time frame support and resistance. It broke up, retested. So CHZ actually looks pretty decent for a potential trade here. And it's very, very easy to see where our invalidation level's at. So even if you entered kind of 57, the problem is with these little low sat shit coins is when to take profit. Even if you just cut it back at R3, I mean, I could definitely see a quick pump to R3. But the fact that we flipped this as support, I mean, you could probably aim a little bit higher, maybe up to the 70s level. But yeah, so that's what I would be looking at. The fact that we flipped this level is pretty key. So a good setup, you know, just manage your risk appropriately. I'm not a huge fan of these 50 sat coins. Like we took the trade on Poe, but the liquidity is kind of weird. And if it dumps, it's kind of hard to get out with a stop loss. relationship between RSI and MFI seems like something can be interpreted, but not sure what. Yeah, each indicator, I mean, I would just use the indicator what it was specifically designed for. Do you expect any signals to come out later today? It depends on the market conditions. We're constantly scanning the market. The thing with signals is we look for the highest quality, highest probable setup. And so when Bitcoin's moving like it is, we tend to scale back on the number of trades and limit our exposure until we get a little bit more of an idea of what Bitcoin's going to do, especially when we had like a really strong impulse. Okay, cool, guys. I'm going to let Chinggis take over. Thanks for joining the live stream. And yeah, if you have any questions, just hit me in chat. It's been a little quiet lately, so feel free to ask questions both in on-demand and in the VIP community. I'm pretty available for any questions you guys have. All right, brother. All you, man.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Our family across the pond. Great.
Our European brothers.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here.
Our Asian brethren.
Yes. Yeah, we got Dubai is in the house. Very nice. Very nice. So very good to have you guys here. Any questions? Just like JC said, if you have any questions, shout them out, throw them in chat. Any specific chart that you want to look at, we'll take a look at that chart and we'll kind of see what's going on. And we'll just take it from there. So I did talk about ETH before. That was ETH BTC. Somebody asked for an ETH USD chart in the Discord, so it's already on my screen. I might as well just keep going with it. This was an important level right here. This was this sort of no trade zone. There was a lot shaking here between the pitchfork and then older support levels. And what happened was when we broke this red line, this major resistance level, that was the go-to line to get in. Now a pullback would be expected, maybe somewhere around the 50, so 184, 185 ballpark zone. But the other thing is this right here, the 618 on the bigger move. So, you do need to zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture to understand what you're actually doing and where you're trading and why you're trading it. We could be on the 15-minute chart and everything looks very, very, very different. But when you're on here, right, you get a much cleaner picture of what's actually happening inside of all that noise. So we had a huge move up, obviously. This is an all-time high, sitting around 14 and change. Price came all the way down, sitting around the $80 zone. So you got to remember that. 1,400 down to 80 bucks, right? At 1,400, nobody was thinking this thing would be under $100 again, myself included. Here it is. But the important thing is, what has it done since then? So we do need to actually measure, right, from our top side to our bottom side to figure out what the retracement is. If you're ever looking for how much did something get back after losing X amount, right, you're going to pull from high to low, all right? That's just how that works. So from our high side to our low side, now we can see, did we hit the 236, which means did we get or recoup 23% back from that move? And the answer is no. We're just short right here. Just short. So front run on that could be a possibility. Let's say 396 was the 236. And our high on the retrace was 364. So that's well within a front run on a $1,400 coin. It's about 30 bucks. That's fine. Now we have an entirely different scenario. Now on the retrace, we're pulling back. So it's a completely different trend. So we have this trend here. That's the retrace trend. That's the pitchfork. The pitchfork will let us know the strength, right, of that uptrend. So if we're long, right, we're looking at the heart line right here. If we're long, every bracket above the heart is stronger and stronger and stronger. Every bracket below the heart is weaker and weaker and weaker. And we tried to save face right down here at the lowest bracket. Now we flipped it. And that's why it was short-term shorts only on Ethereum or no trade zone, right? You didn't want to get involved. You didn't want to long, resistance. It just doesn't make any sense. You like the short resistance and you want a long support, then, you know, obviously, you know, that's that's how you want to trade. So we had a few things going in this zone over here, and first things first, right? Our resistance line from the third bracket. That's number one. But then we had major support. As we came down, we had support, and it was respected right here as well. So this whole zone, you know, this was flipped up from before the big run up. This is resistance. This is resistance. So we have to look at that and say, all right, well, what is the only level here that makes sense that if we break, we can go long again? And that's this level right here. All right. So not only did we break that level, all right, we need to close over it. And now, well, today with the stream being earlier, right, we're not really talking about daily candles closing. So anything can happen in the next hour and 34 minutes. But it has been a good day for Ethereum dollar, for sure. Good push up. 7%, up about 12 bucks. That's great. Now you also broke the 618 that we just talked about, and you broke in through that bracket, found it as support, launch pad up, all is well. All right, so looking for a little bit of a pullback. The short-term pullback would be sitting at the 618. So you'd be back at like 188.20, and that would be the go to buy in, push, and then you're looking for the next bracket, or you're looking for coming back to these levels here. Now this isn't 100% bullish. Now you're on the weakest side of the pitchfork. So it's going to take a little doing in order to actually get this thing up to speed. But you do have a lot of resistance. You got a lot of levels. You got this downward broadening wedge. That's going to be a factor. You got the bigger swing fail. There's a lot going on here besides just your horizontals and your fibs. And don't even ask about moving averages because you got a whole bunch of those in the way as well. All right, especially the 100 and 200. Those are going to be the arch nemesis of Ethereum as Ethereum tries to climb on the dollar. So 207 and 210, that's going to be a fight, and it should be. If you blew right through moving averages like they didn't exist, nobody would ever use them. So you do want to see a reaction, but you want to see that reaction overcome. So you want, just like every superhero, right? You want them to face adversity and then overcome it, So there's a challenge in the way, and, they have to think about it, and then they smash it, right? So that is the idea with moving averages. You do want to see resistance, you do want to see a pullback, and then you do want to see it break through. If it breaks through on the first shot, that's fine, but expect a pullback to retest it. And that could happen inside a 4-hour candle, or that could happen inside of, a month or two. Like we saw with Ethereum way back when it's not on this chart. It broke out of this monster wedge over here, right? And then this was the breakout. I'll draw it for you real quick. It was something like this. It's not going to be perfect, but it was something like this, right? And we broke out and we never got the retest. And well, the retest came, it just came like over here and then failed. So we did get it. It just took a few months. And, at that point when it broke out again, nobody was thinking it was coming down here, except now we got a little bit smarter. We got a little bit wise, and we were like, yeah, it's definitely coming down. All right, so let's see. Can we take a look at SEAL BTC on Huobi? It's been pumping hard. Yeah, all right. Let's take a look. SEAL BTC. Let's see. SEAL BTC on Huobi. All right. Pumping hard, you said. Yeah, looks like a fairly decent move for sure. Let's see if we can slide this thing back a little bit, get a little bit more work over here on the daily. So let's see. Consolidation broke, double top, smash, bring it down, pull up, and then once you broke this level, let's see, it would have been that level. Really, like you're looking for the resistance reaction. You're looking for that level that held price down. This is a bit of a shallow retrace cup and handle. It's awfully ugly, but it's good enough. As far as when we did break, it was not an immediate thing. So this was broken here. Volume fell off to nothing. And then something happened August 29th, and there was interest back in the coin. But it literally spent from the end of July to the end of August doing nothing. And at that point, it did lose a little bit of value, of course, to BTC on the pair. Consolidated for a little while. And even when it got volume, it sold off again. So we have this new level here that needs to break. You broke it. You found support. You danced on it for a while. And then within the last 2 weeks, this thing has smashed up to these record levels. So all things considered, whatever the catalyst was that smashed this thing up, something like this, when you got a monster candle to the high side and you get a 618 pullback all inside of the same candle, there's something super suspicious about that. But that's neither here nor there. When it did come down, it did paint a symmetrical triangle here. Found support on the low side. Never needed to tap the 9. Still hasn't tapped the 9. Push back up, and again, now you got a rising wedge, right? So you got this thing over here. So you got this little movement over here on top of this guy. All right, and that has done really well. With the breakout from here, again, expect that size move. Currently, you're finding resistance at the all-time high, which is expected. Now, after that, I believe you're going to be in price discovery, unless this thing is much older than we think. Here, let's pull the weekly chart. Let's see. What do we got here? Anything? Doesn't look like there's a whole lot happening on that side. Yeah, no more data. All right, so for sure in price discovery. So price discovery, you could do a couple things as far as targets. One, you know, like Jacob was saying, you put a trailing stop on it, call it a day. Another thing you could do is try to find extension levels. So we would do something like this. And let's see, we come back around here, bring that over here. And of course, we're going to have to edit this. So we're looking for something similar to like a 423, 3618. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. 618, 78. All right, so let's make this a 2618. And we'll make this a, let's see. That's a 2618. That's the 5. Let's make this a 423. All right. And we can also do, I guess, let's get rid of the 127. We'll make that a 3618. Okay. There we go. All right, so targets in price discovery can get a little crazy. First, you got to deal with, you know, trends that are prominent only on very little history. From there, you take like a big move up that makes sense with a good pullback. So it has to be price action that makes sense. It can't just be any willy-nilly little pullback. That's just not going to fly. But this makes the most sense. That was an all-time high, right? That price was held under for many, 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 many times. Tested once, rejected, broke, and closed above. Pullback, retest, launch off. Okay, so that's the level. That's the only one that we care about at the moment, and that's at 315. It looks like that's your major level. All right, so using that, right, we're going to take a 1618 extension from this guy down to the low that it made. All right, that's what makes it important. So a 1618 is right here. You cleared that level, no problem. You smashed right through it, never even came back. Next level would be a 2618. That's a take profit target. And you can see where we pushed up, got rejected, pushed back up again, got rejected again on the 2618. And then this week we came down, found support, right? As soon as we opened that candle, pushed a little bit down, kept support, and pushed up. Next level is going to be the 3618 over at 925, and then the 423 at about 1,068. Then from there, you got an 823 and a 1278. I mean, there's other extensions, but at some point, right, we are going to find exhaustion. And once we find exhaustion, we are going to find this thing to come back down. So if we look at volume, right, volume increased right here. Price barely moved. Increased again, price shot up, and this was your test of the all-time high. Failed. Price came up, volume came up even higher, right, and made this big smash. The problem is the next volume candle was even lower, and this current weekly candle is on pace. It's Wednesday now, closed it. So it's on pace to be about the same. You got another 4 days of trading, but overall, it doesn't look like volume is going to exceed the volume that gave you the big push. So it's already showing signs of weakening. So this is something that you have to be very careful about. A push up to the 3.6 or the 4.2 is possible. Like this candle, you could do it in 1 day. The problem is, do you have any support behind it? Is there anything pushing this thing? What was the catalyst that actually moved it besides just breaking all-time high levels and then pushing up this far? Right? So those are the things that you would want to dial in and make sure that you have those unlocked so that you can get out of this trade if necessary. But this is something that in price discovery that you throw a trailing stop on and just let it do its thing. This way, when you do get stopped out, hopefully, you know, it's well up here, which would have been a move you wouldn't have really been able to throw a whole lot of TA on besides extensions. All right, so hopefully that helps. Cool. All right, let's see. Will LTC follow similarly to ETH? Well, on USD or on BTC? I don't think we can use, yeah, I can't use that chart. I got a chart over here. So on the USD side, although visually very similar to ETH, we are missing all of this action over here. But huge nosedives. Nosedive came down and ended up pushing on the, let's see, we did get the 236 here, and we just missed the 382 at 153. Ended up with a high 145. Yeah, like 140. Yeah, 145. So we could consider that a front run. It's a little drastic. I mean, let me see. Are we front running this much? Figure 2 to 5% is what people will front run. Yeah, it's within front run, 4.6%. So yeah, all right, 382. So the answer right away is no, because it's a completely different setup, right? So this push down, and you got a 382 retrace. That's 1,000 times different than getting a 236 retrace, or not even getting the retrace, which is the case for Ethereum. All right, so this is already just a different setup, different move, different feel, different trading, different aspect, different everything. All right, now this push is the local push we're looking at, and we're looking at that pullback, right? So we're looking at the pullback to the retracement of the high. Right, so it's like Inception. You know, there's a lot of different levels of analysis. So anyway, when it came down, right, we initially got a little bit of love down. Let me get rid of that. We got a little bit of love right here in this zone, right? We call that the golden zone. So it's 618, push down, push back up, hit about the 5, but again, front run a little bit on the 5. And then a big drop down, right? That big drop down was going to test the 786 and didn't quite make it. So again, another little front run here. I feel like everything on this chart is off by just a little bit, which is really a shame, but it is what it is. So now when we look at the local action, we know currently, right, we just broke the 7-0, right, creep up to the 6-1, support down 7-8. Those are at least three major influences that we can look at for what may happen next. Now we got to look at the local price action, right? Step down pattern, step down, across, down, wait a second, coming up, fail to make, right, fail to achieve, right, momentum. Lost it, came back down. Now you crushed it, and at the time, you crushed a support level. This support level right here wasn't even bothered, not even for a second. So the problem with that is that's momentum pushing down, forcing this level to not exist. That's the next level to get tested. And when it does get tested, it does not make it bullish. Hold on. So take a look at that. If you were to do this, and you want price to come up here, you are still bearish. All right? This is actually your flip to short zone, believe it or not. So you'd be looking at something like this, coming in here, and saying, all right, what I'm looking at there is an SR flip. Just like that. So when price has found support, tested support, failed to make a higher high or a double top, pushes down and smashes the level. Now it did test it right here. It tested it one more time. Right there. You can see that wick? I mean right to the penny. Tested it, smashed it. Now, the next time you revisit this level, that's an SR flip. You are flipping it from support 1, 2, 3 times to resistance, at least on the first test. So, although this may look somewhat bullish, and really not really, I mean, you broke a fake out, breakout to the downside, pushed it back to the same level, 57.42, 57.50, and then right into the apex. So the pattern at that point is already invalidated. Right now you just leave the lines up as trends. The candle is good, but LTC is one of 3 majors. Right? You got Bitcoin, Ethereum. Oh, it's not. I'm sorry. It's not even a major. You got Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Bcash, Litecoin, EOS. Those are considered. I mean, they're basically considered high mid caps, but they're still mids nonetheless. They're under $10 billion caps. So even though this break on this level is bullish, right? This is your target for shorts. All right, so expect this move right here. You might get that real quick, right? Because you got rejection at the 20. You got to push up here. Now what happens here is what's the most important. You should come down here. Because now this is your major structure level. Right here. That's your major structure level on the low end for support. All right. So this is like ping pong setup. We could just get rid of this. All right. This is your ping pong setup, right? Price is being rejected right now. Daily chart on the 20 MA. That makes sense, right? First time you touched it in a long time. Find it. Find the resistance. No problem. Pull it back down just to local levels, which happen to be the main level. We'll get to that in 1 second. From there, once you pull back, found support, now you got the good push because now you got these candles with you, right? This is now considered a trend on the local side. You'd have to be on like the hourly chart for it to even make sense, but regardless, it's still the action, right? Your action right here is a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high. So this even though now it's represented in hourly candles, is the same as what we just looked at broken down into a few candles. That's these guys right here. All right, so now that you have an established trend on a low time frame, now you can actually push for the next high. The only problem is your next high is rejection. Should be rejection. And the rejection level should come back down to previous structure. And that's this right here. So it's essentially you short the resistance, you long the support. Now the next time you come across it should be a break. All right? If it's not, and it ends up double topping, well, then you got bigger problems. Because then you're coming down to the 786. All right? So it's far too soon to tell where, we don't know all this price action. We need the reaction on this level first. First things first, close that 20, close that daily under the 20, and you should be pulling back. You close above the 20, there's no reason to pull back and just go right up. All right, so everything hinges off that daily close. But target on the high side for sure is right around 62 all the way up to 63, 65. Okay? And then again, this could go either way, right? So, it could something like that. But we have to see this first. We have to analyze the actual reaction. We take that reaction, we add it with volume, momentum, the volatility, what Bitcoin was doing, the whole 9 yards, and then you get a much better idea of what may or may not happen based off of probabilities. All right, Miles. So need an SR flip around 62 before entering. Well, no. I mean, you would enter down here at 57.50. Right? That's the idea. Right? So this is an SR flip. Right now, it's a massive rejection that has just been broken out. The problem is you just don't want too long resistance. So where the candle's sitting right now, you've already missed a breakout. So where it's sitting now, you don't want to buy it and buy the 20 that's holding it down. And you don't want to buy it right up to a resistance level that should push it back. So you allow it to get rejected. You allow it to pull back. Now, like I said, on the hourly, now you're in trend. So this is still considered a trend play. This would be a pullback play and a continuation. Once you have that, then you're looking to push through because you have momentum. You tested this once. Now it's time to go full steam. Just like this. You come down, you tested it once, you pull back a little bit, and then you go full steam. This is the same thing, it's just backwards, right? You come up, you test it once, you pull back to previous structure, and then you blast right through it. You just have to be ready if it comes up here and does not blast through it. If, let's say, you're losing momentum, or let's say you had the push up and volume was declining, or you got a couple wick outs on an hourly or a 15-minute chart, those would be indications that this level is going to be more resistance. And if it's going to continue to be resistance and fail to break through, then you need to flip this short, because at that point you should be coming down again. And you could do one of two things, right? You could just struggle on this level for the next, whatever, or chances are you will break it and you will come down to the 786. All right? Yeah, no worries. No worries. All right, does anybody have any questions before we try to keep these pretty, not short, but we try to keep them reasonable, mostly for you guys who are watching the replays. So now we have a different group of people watching the replays, but we don't want them, we don't really want them sitting through, 3 hours of old charts. So we're going to kill this soon. But if you have any last minute charts, any questions, anything you want to talk about, throw it in the chat now. We'll take a look at it, and then we'll rock and roll. Bitcoin did some things today. So I'm pretty excited for the daily. This was a great move. I put in the update this morning. You know, I would not be surprised at 95. And, you know, 95 is up here. It's a little hard to see, obviously, because my charts are a little bit of a nightmare. So let's use this chart. Let's put the daily on. All right, so as far as the major swing fail, okay, that's right here. That's your high over at 14, 13 change, whatever. That's your first swing fail. Price came down, came back up, failed to make a higher high. Bang. Everything underneath that is bearish until we break it. So when we dump down here, right, and we form this little pattern, this is now starting to form a W pattern. Even though this is, in technical senses that we measured it, I think 0.67% is the difference between candles. These two candles are even lower at 0.38%. So under 1%, we could call that a triple bottom. Technically speaking, it's good enough wick-wise. But clearly, this is a higher low wicks than down here. But the exciting thing for this was the tweezer bottom, which does not look as tweezery on the Coinbase chart, but for sure on the Stamp chart. Now I use Stamp because Stamp is super old, still has good liquidity, and has history. But this is a tweezer bottom for me, for sure. 0.12%, a $9 difference on a daily chart, for sure. Yeah, that's good. So back to the Coinbase chart, though. Tweezer bottom, bullish engulfing, double the victory right there, and then topping out on major resistance. So you expect rejection, and that's fine. Rejected again. Now this was the candle yesterday where we said, all right, you know, now we're in indecision zone. Now it's not unlike Bitcoin to have a big move up or down and then go sideways for a day or two and then continue the preceding trend, which is the same thing it did right here. You know, price comes down, consolidated for a day, indecision, a little up, a little down, no big deal. Continue with the preceding trend. We can see that all over the place, right? We just, you know, take a look down. Price comes down, consolidates 2 days, sideways, continues downward move. This was a hanging man, so that was destined to fail over there. That's really no big deal. This is the sandwich pattern. So you come down, you build the sandwich, right? There's the burger in the middle. Here's your bun, and then you made another one right here. But anyway, make a long story short, the indecision candle, it could last for, you know, 1 to 3 days generally. And then you're looking for preceding trend. So preceding trend, even though it's on the daily, you don't really have a trend, but on the hourly, you sure do. So on the hourly, you say, okay, well, here we go. We got a low, we got a high, we got a higher low, we got a higher high. So pulling back only makes sense before you make the next move up. So this little pullback right here is super shallow, super shallow. Pulling back to 84.55 makes more sense, right? And then a push up. But you have to factor in how Bitcoin looks on a 4-hour chart, on a 1-hour chart, and then you dive into the, you know, the 1-5-15s if you want, but that's like really intense scalping charts. We don't really need that for longer term plays. So even on here, the key level here is 84.26, and that would be the pullback. Now you might not get it. Here's the deal, because if we go back to the hourly, we can see what we're starting to form here, right? So when price comes up and just kind of like shoots straight down like an angle like that, that's considered a bull flag. So bull flag will give you continuation, right, of previous trend. So if we just put our line on, you know, like that, because that's the actual trend. Okay, and then we just do this and just drag that down. All right, so now you have your flagpole, which is down here at the beginning of trend, up to trend, and then you have price comes down like that. So it sort of just does this weird thing. All right, now If this is to play out, you look for a breakout of that trend to the upside, and then you take your measurement from the bottom of the pole to the top of the pole, and then you just rip this thing over to where the breakout is. So let's say the breakout happens right here. All right, then you're looking at another 6% move up, and then a push to 91.39. Right, and that would make sense on a local time frame, just as far as getting out of this zone. But this is the big level, and we haven't hit that. We haven't hit that yet. But that level right there is the level where price hesitated on the way down. That's that. So this is a perfect example of that hesitation. Big move down, hesitation, hesitation, another move down, consolidation, big move down. All right, so now we laddered out, and now we found our local low bottom. And then we had a rejection, pull up. Now you got a higher low, and then another push up. So now you got a low, a high, higher low, higher high. Now we have an established move that creates a bottom, right? That's what this action makes this confirmed, if that makes sense. All right. So now to break this level is a big deal. But look at where we consolidated. Do you see it? Look at this consolidation, hesitation. Look at this consolidation, hesitation. Do you see the similarities here? So those things are all, taken into consideration whenever you're looking at, subjective moves, or whenever you're looking at things that are not exactly the most technical, but similar, right? They give you an idea of what could be happening based off of previous action. So this level right here was also the rejection topside level. If you remember, this was the rejection from the double bottom. So we had the double bottom, the push, we got rejected, came back, we confirmed the double bottom, right? And then we never came back up again. That was the swing fail, which brought all of this down here, which then gave us, right, our new life, and our new life was the tweezer bottom, which happened down here on 2 separate days. And then we pushed up, we failed to make a higher high again after this, but this was our reversal area right here, pushed up, found support, and now we got the breakout play. So breakout play comes up, right, finds rejection right here, and lo and behold, here we are again, consolidating one more time. So now, looking at that on the daily, it's a little hard to see all that action that goes on. Right, on the daily, all we see is just a wick. And that's that. So it's coincidental, to say the least, that action is happening right on the 20 and right on your 200, right? So it's a big time level. That 200 is a big time level. I think we're on day 13 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're on our 14th day, so 2 weeks under the sun, and, the first time we touched it was absolute rejection. The first other 2 times we came close, but no dice. But this actual touch brought us our low, which gave us our tweezer bottom, which built us our engulfing, which gave us our hesitation candle, and then the breakout play. So now we sit on basically the heels of the 200. Failure to break and close over the 200 today is not a big deal, because this would be considered the second attempt, right? Now, pushing it past and closing above the 200, that's really just walking the bears right out of their den and just kicking them into the river. That's a little mean, right? It's a little bit too much for them to handle. So what happens is you get rejected, you chill out for a minute, you pull back to previous structure, which should be 83. Remember that zone we looked at? So 83.80, let's say, to like 84.20. We'll give it that $40 zone. Pull back down there and then push, right? So the bulls have an opportunity here to make a statement that they have failed to make time and time and time again. This is their moment. So the bears want nothing more than to make sure that the bulls get rejected, stay rejected. And when they come down to this level, they will fight it tooth and nail, because if they lose this level, it's adios amigos. If they gain that level as support, that is detrimental to the bears. And that would push price up well past the 200, well past the 20, and your next target entry or next target zone will be looking around the 50. Now, as far as the Gartley is concerned, and is that on this chart? Hold on. It's not on this chart either. Oh, it's on this chart. Okay, so as far as the Gartley is concerned, right, the entry was down here, like 78 something, right? And the first target on here, right, is all the way up, the 382. So this is your first target level right here, around 10,000. So psychological level, 10K, blah, blah, blah. 382 of the overall bigger move. And that's the push, right? So 382, but the next target is the 618. So the 618 is the all-time high 50, and it also creates the bearish cipher, which should then push price back down again, but not too bad. So it would be standard price action if we saw a huge move up, continuation, a big pullback, and then continuation, and then consolidation. So we could see all those things happen. Whether they do or not is up to the whole market, but we could absolutely see those things happen. Here's that level, right? Pointed out right here. Bang. That's your weekly, 87.33. We talked about that for the last X amount of weeks in the morning update, right? So 87.33 weekly. The other weekly level that's super important is 8,200, right? So if we were to pull all the way back down to 8,200, it's possible, all right? But it's a big lose for the bulls if that does happen. That's your level. This is your level right here. 80, we just talked about it, 84.20-ish to, basically it's this wick, right? Ugh, come on. Forget it. You know what I'm talking about. It's that level right there. All right, it's the rejection point of the double bottom. Double bottom push, rejection, body close, daily, push down for the new low. That's your level right there. So pull back to that level and we're straight. Lose that level, and that's not good. You bring all the way back down to the weekly at 82. That's okay. Bulls can absolutely survive on that, but you lose that, and that's a wrap. Then we got to start looking at shorts again, looking at quadruple bottoms, looking at support levels breaking down, looking at the 350 over here in green, sitting right now at 67.01. We got a lot of things to look at if that does break the wrong way. Currently, though, although we are tapping on the door of the 200 and we are currently under the 200, which overall bias is bearish, this to me is still very bullish. All right. Where would you long BTC? I did at the Gartley down here. That was the entry. That was the entry down here. So Gartley entry was 78.25. That was the entry. I'm still long. All right. If you want to long and you're not in a long, then that's the zone to long right here. 83, the pullback. So if you get the pullback at 83.80 or 84.20, that $40 zone, that's the first area to pull back and buy. You find support there and you look for continuation upward. If you lose that level, the next level is the weekly structure at 82. You lose 82, then I wouldn't be looking for longs. My Gartley is not invalidated until I'm under X, which is all the way down here. 75 and change. All right. So, I have no concern down here as far as the current position I'm in. All right. Nasser, what have we said 755,000 times? There are no deleted messages. Ay, jeez. It is not lagging, just a refresh fixed it. Yeah, thanks. See, now that makes... Is it just lagging on my side? Oh. You're good. All right, cool. Everybody's good? Let me know, not now, you know, take a few hours to digest it. Let me know your feedback on the 5:30 Eastern start time. Just let me know in chat or hit me in DM. If you hit me in chat, tag me so I could see it. You know, sometimes I got 1,000 things going on. I get back on the Discord and there's like 400 missed messages, and they're mostly Cookie Monster memes and stuff. So, and I just can't. I can't scan back. You know, like it'll take too long. All right, so just let me know whatever the feedback is, and yeah, we'll take it from there. All right, tomorrow's back to normal time, 7:30 Eastern, and we will cover the daily candle close. All right, so I do appreciate everybody coming. Eric says preferred for me. All right, and Dem says cause is better. Excellent. And then we'll take it from there. So until then, I want to see you guys on the exchanges, and happy trading.